In business, we're all taught that growth is the goal. More sales, more customers, more revenue. That's supposed to be the sign that you're winning. But what if that very thing you're chasing, that rapid growth, is actually leading your company right off a cliff? Today, we're going to break down a really dangerous paradox, how a business can look like it's absolutely crushing it, right up until the moment it all falls apart. And this quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of the problem. A company can be landing huge deals, getting amazing press, and growing its market share, all while its financial engine is secretly grinding to a halt. And this isn't about not being profitable. It's about literally running out of cash. And trust me, that difference is everything. So there's a technical name for this whole situation. It's called overtrading, and it's basically a massive mismatch. Think of it like trying to run a full marathon on the energy you'd have for a 100-meter dash. It's just not going to work. Your ambition, your sales have just gotten way ahead of your financial ability to actually make it all happen. And this is the trap. This is where so many smart people get caught. They look at their reports, they see sales are higher than costs, and they think, hey, we're profitable, we're good. But they forget about one crucial thing: timing. There's almost always a lag, a gap, between when you spend money to create and deliver a product and when you actually get paid for it. The faster you grow, the bigger and more dangerous that cash gap gets. Okay, so to really get this, we've got to pop the hood and look at the company's cash engine. This is where the real strain of growth starts to show up, and it can get painful fast. Here's the best way to think about it. Cash is oxygen for your business, and growth, well, growth is like intense exercise. Every single decision to expand, hiring someone new, buying more inventory, getting new equipment, it all consumes oxygen before it generates any return. So rapid growth demands a massive increase in oxygen. And if you can't supply it, the whole system just shuts down. We can actually map out the journey that cash takes. It's called the cash conversion cycle. So, step 1, your cash leaves the building. You're paying suppliers for materials. Then, step 2, that material sits there as inventory while you make your product. Step 3, you finally sell it. Great, but you sell it on credit, so now you're just waiting. The clock is ticking. And only at the very end, at step 4, does the cash finally come back home. Now check out what happens when you're in that growth spurt. To keep up with demand, you have to stock more inventory, right? So your inventory days jump from 30 to 45. And to win those bigger clients, you have to offer them better payment terms, so your receivables stretch from 45 to 60 days. All of a sudden, your whole cycle has ballooned from 45 days to 75 days. That's 30 extra days, a full month, that you have to fund completely out of your own pocket. And this brings us to the most critical difference in all of business: profitability versus liquidity. See, profitability, that's an accounting idea. It looks great on paper. A lack of it is like a slow disease. But liquidity, that's about having actual cash, the oxygen, to pay your bills and your people today. A lack of liquidity isn't a slow decline, it's a sudden, catastrophic collapse. So this stretched out cash cycle, it kicks off a really dangerous domino effect. And it all starts with the two biggest things that eat up cash in any growing company: the money your customers owe you and the stuff you've got sitting on the shelves. Think about it. Every single time you sell something on credit, you're essentially giving your customer an interest-free loan. And as your sales shoot up, the size of that loan book just balloons. At the same time, you're buying more and more inventory to keep up. But that inventory isn't just product, it's stacks of your cash, frozen, sitting on a shelf where you can't use it. And the pressure from bigger customers can be intense. To land those huge, game-changing contracts, smaller companies are often forced to accept really long payment terms. I mean, it's not weird to see terms of 72 days, 90 days, or even more. For a small business, having to wait almost 3 months to get paid can be a total death sentence. So, how do you plug this ever-widening cash gap? Well, far too often, the answer is short-term debt. The business gets totally hooked on its bank overdraft. And this is a classic, desperate mistake. You're using a temporary, expensive band-aid to try and fix what has become a permanent structural wound in your finances. Now, this entire fragile structure, built on fast sales, delayed cash, and temporary debt, it can only hold on for so long. Eventually, inevitably, the business reaches a tipping point. The whole thing is about to snap. And the warning signs? They're usually right there in plain sight if you know what to look for. Your sales are going through the roof, but the actual cash in your bank account is plummeting. You're living on your overdraft. You start paying your own suppliers later and later. And often, to get all this new business, you've had to cut your prices, so your profit margins are getting razor thin. Do any of these sound a little too familiar? Which brings us to the final, terrifying question. The business is running on fumes. The overdraft is totally maxed out. Your suppliers, the ones you haven't paid in a while, are starting to make angry phone calls. So, what happens when they finally say enough is enough and demand you pay up? That's when it happens. The cycle snaps. The whole balancing act just implodes. The final collapse is shockingly fast. Your suppliers cut you off, so you can't get materials. With no materials, production grinds to a halt. The bank sees you're at your limit and refuses to honor any more checks. You can't pay your people, you can't finish your orders, you're in a total deadlock. It's a sudden, complete financial collapse, even while on paper you look like a successful, profitable, fast-growing company. But listen, it does not have to end this way. Just understanding that this trap exists is the first step to avoiding it. So let's shift from the crisis to the solution. Let's talk about how a business can manage its growth and move from a state of total chaos to one of control. Okay, this is basically your playbook. If you see your cash cycle getting longer, you have to get aggressive about collecting money faster from customers and negotiating longer to pay your suppliers. If you're hooked on that overdraft, you need to go out and get proper, long-term financing that actually matches your growth. Feeling the strain? You need rigorous cash flow forecasts yesterday. And, most importantly, if your growth is just totally unfunded, you might have to do the one thing that feels wrong. Deliberately slow down and let your cash catch up. And this really is the biggest takeaway. The goal isn't just growth, it's sustainable growth. The companies that survive and thrive are the ones that shift their focus. They stop obsessing over the vanity metric of sales, and they start treating cash flow, the actual usable cash in the bank, as their #1 sign of success. So I'm going to leave you with this one question. When you look at your own business, what are you measuring? Are you focused on your speed, how fast your revenue is growing? Or are you carefully tracking your oxygen supply, your actual cash flow? Because while revenue might feel like success, cash is the oxygen that actually lets you survive to see another day.